This embroidered tapestry measures around 5 feet 8 by 5 feet 5, with an area of 4,438 square inches. I began this piece in 1969 when I was a senior in high school in Olympia Fields, Illinois, and finished it in 1997 in Radford, Virginia. It's impossible to accurately estimate the number of stitches, but I figure over 1 million, maybe as many as 2 million. I never bothered to count, believe me. How did I begin? My first effort was a t-shirt, and I had mixed results. It looked fine, but the fabric wasn't suitable and wore out long before the embroidered sections did. Next, I purloined cotton scraps from Mom's rag stash, but there was a reason they were rags. The fabric was already worn after years of wash cycles. It started falling apart before the project was even finished. For this tapestry, I broke down and purchased a brand new twin-size bedsheet with the intent of turning it into a bedspread. Before long, I realized that was way too ambitious and would in the end be too heavy for a bed covering, so I cut a few feet off the bottom. Its current size still takes up a lot of wall space. I didn't do the entire design all at once. I made the 2 striped borders with stars, but everything in between I drew as I went along. Frankly, I simply enjoyed the process of sewing and was less concerned about the final overall effect. That's why I've been told it has no artistic merit, but I'm a sewer, not an artist. I started in the upper left-hand area and finished at the lower right. In the beginning, my stitches were larger, and toward the end you'll see more intricacy and detail. Maybe I made the stitches smaller to delay finishing. You'll also notice a change in use of color. This was partly dictated by the thread I had available. At first, I depended on thread donations from my grandmothers. They'd accumulated a lot of floss and gave it to me to relieve their hoarder's guilt. The colors were entirely to my taste, but beggars can't be choosers. The nearest place to buy floss was McCrory's Dime Store. They only carried Coates and Clark, and their color selection was limited. Sometimes I obtained DMC floss at Kirshner's in Chicago. I lived a half-mile from the Illinois Central train station, so it was easy to travel downtown. However, I was perpetually broke, so money for train fare and thread and lunch at the Holloway House cafeteria once I arrived in the Loop was problematic. I prefer DMC thread because it's less apt to tangle and knot up and has a silkier feel. DMC also has a huge color selection. The tapestry has been washed several times, and the colors remain vibrant. Even the areas containing my grandmother's now 85-year-old thread show no signs of wear. This is entirely hand-sewn except for the hemming. Someone once asked me why I didn't use an embroidery machine, as that would be quicker and more efficient. Well, to begin with, such machines didn't exist when I started the project, at least not for home use. Besides, I simply enjoyed the process. Embroidering was something to occupy my hands while watching TV or listening to audiobooks, and accomplish something useful at the same time. I became a born-again Christian in 1981, and I found that sewing and prayer go well together. I could have finished this in half the time, but on occasion production ceased altogether because I ran out of thread and was too broke to buy more. Like most people, I had a family, jobs, volunteer work, and so forth that were priorities. Also, during this time period, I completed dozens of other projects, embellishing shirts and handbags for friends, pillows, and many smaller pieces, most of which I gave away. In 1980, I had a baby, and once he became mobile, working with so much fabric was impractical, thanks to grubby little hands, so the small pieces stayed out of the way of sticky fingers. After completing it in 1997, it remained in a box for another 20 years. Here in Kalamazoo, Michigan, I finally have enough wall space to display it. As I indicated, my effort has been roundly panned by the textile art establishment. For example, I entered it in a show in Christiansburg, Virginia, and it came in about dead last. Didn't even receive a participation trophy. However, a lot of friends and family do like it, so perhaps you might find it interesting.